you everyone for coming this morning. It is truly just a testament to the power of the library that people got up and out of their homes and came to learn a little bit more about the library at 9 in the morning. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Conor Moran. I'm the Executive Director of Madison Public Library Foundation. Don't know that there's anyone in the room that I don't know, but if I don't, please come and introduce yourself afterward. And I'm joined today for what is typically our State of the Foundation address, but this year we framed it as State of the Library because the library has a new director for the first time in 12 and a half years. And so I'm joined by Tana, Elias, the new director of Madison Public Library.
Good morning, everybody.
Tana and I go back, I would say. For me, it is a particularly special day because when I got the job as Wisconsin Book Festival director, the space hadn't been built. I didn't know anyone at the library, and they said, Tana Elias is going to be your connection for whatever you need, and that was 12 years ago, and here we are sitting here today, which I think is probably one of the most improbable things that's ever happened in my life. But I couldn't be happier to be talking to you today and to be doing this with you, so thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So we're just going to jump right in. I have some questions for Tana. She has a couple questions for me, and then we will have time for questions from all of you, so if there are things that you want to hear about the foundation or the library or just our ideas about where it might go, we are here for that for you. And then we'll have a little time at the end just to, if you want to do something informally. So, Tana, you've been a part of MPL for quite a while. Is that right?
31 years.
But for those of the people here who don't know about your path through the system, why don't you just tell us how many different jobs have you had here at MPL?
I have to think about that. So I started out, I came to Madison to go to library school, and I got a job as a library page because that was a pretty common thing to do when I was in library school, is try to get an entry-level job while you're in school. And I was a page at the Central Library and then the Penny Library for about 2 years. And then I took a librarian position at the Meadow Ridge Library. I was there for 5 years. And at that time, there were more part-time positions in the library, and so I worked at Meadow Ridge, but I also subbed at all of the other libraries, with the exception of Alicia Ashman, which hadn't been built yet. And then when in 2000, at the kind of beginning stages of the internet, I took a combined reference and web librarian role here at the Central Library. I worked in that position for about 11 years, and that position changed quite a bit during the time. And then around, I think in 2012, 2011, I took a marketing manager position. That was a new position for the library. And in getting ready to apply for the director job and in going through that interview process, I realized one of the most interesting things about my career trajectory was a huge change in libraries, and that was the internet. So we think about the internet as like, oh yeah, that's what we do in libraries. But it was a very new thing at the time, and it offered a lot of opportunity for communication and connection and new service delivery. And it was a time of great change. And so I feel like that really did set me up for coming into this position and going through a different time of change and growth because there was so much transition, and having to manage that was a really great experience. And one that I hadn't thought about at the time, but looking back, I realized that was a really important part of my career.
I have a staff member who I won't name by name, but yesterday she said, I would just love to live through precedented times for a little while. Which kind of makes you think about your comment about change and maybe what's coming. You're stepping into the role at a time, and I can relate to this, where there are a lot of large organizational projects that have been ongoing that maybe you've had a role in before but not steering them. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what's coming for the library, some of these big projects, and also how you're working through balancing that with just, you don't have to learn where the tape is, but you have to learn what meetings you're in and all these people's faces.
Right. It is nice that I'm familiar with the organization and I'm familiar with a lot of the bigger projects that are happening. So I stepped into this role in the middle of several really big organizational-wide projects, some of which I helped launch and some of which I didn't. So we started a strategic planning process in 2023, and we kind of put that on hold as we learned that we were about to go through a director transition. That was a process that we started before Greg had announced his retirement. And then we're about to kind of relaunch that and come up with our actual strategic plan now that we kind of know the new landscape. We're also in the middle of an organizational assessment project. We launched that this year. Yesterday I was at a full day retreat to talk about different ways that we could think about our organization chart and how management happens at the library, and think about how that might change some of the kind of growing pains that we've had over the last decade, and also look at our programming model. So those are two big projects that I think you'll all be hearing more about, and I'll be learning more about as we go through the process. And I've really seen the library kind of struggle with organizational capacity. We've taken on a lot of new things, but we haven't let things go. And so I think that's something that as we go into times where budgets might be tighter and services are wider and expectations are maybe broader about what the library's role in the community is, we'll have to go through some kind of community-based processes of what does it look like to either reduce or change or scale back, so that we're able to still be innovative and meet new service demands, while maybe not being able to do all the same things that we are currently doing now. And so I think that's kind of challenging, but it's also a really exciting opportunity for us to think about what does library service look like for the next decade or more.
Yeah, so often in the library community, we hear the phrase, libraries are all things to all people, which, as many people can imagine, is slightly impossible to do. But I will say librarians show themselves time and time and time again that they're interested in trying to do that for people. As you set a strategic goal, I know you don't have the tactics in place, but what is the thrust of the strategic plan? What's the tagline? What should we be expecting to hear from the library?
I think really looking toward what does the next 5 years look like? How do we make that transition? We have spent a lot of time out in the community and doing a lot of community engagement, but we have grown in that area without really identifying what our priorities are. And we are, I think we've become all things to all people. And what can we really do to focus those efforts? Do we do health and wellness programming? Do we do early literacy? Do we do all of those things? Do we, at what level can we support various initiatives? So I think learning more about what our community needs, how they use libraries now, and what we can best focus on to use our resources to kind of move forward toward a good goal.
We're going to hear the phrase strong libraries, thriving communities a lot. Is that true?
Maybe,
yeah. Okay. I think that phrase for me, as someone who works with the library and not for the library, it really signals to me the connection between having a library in a place and that place thriving. And I think that we see with all 9 branches, the people who work and live and experience the library benefit from having it in their community. And that, we have research for that, but we also have the anecdotal, I think. Has anybody been to the library this year? Yeah, right. Has anybody enjoyed that experience? Good. Only 2. Okay. But yeah, I'm excited about that as a strategic vision for how do we have libraries that really make the community go. I think that's exciting for me, at least. Speaking of exciting things, when you step into a new job, even if you have some things that you've been working on for a long time, now you get to make the decision and you get to set the course. So other than the things you inherited, what are you excited about maybe exploring?
Well, I'm kind of a policy data person, so I'm weirdly excited about reviewing all of our library policies. Because it hasn't been done in a while, and I feel like that's really important. It also really gives our board the opportunity, because our board has to pass the policies, so it gives them the opportunity to think about collection development and behavior in libraries and all the different things, that they're kind of thinking big picture level, but it's interesting to get perspective on the daily operations, and that's a good way to get that board feedback. It also allows us to kind of clarify that, those policies and those expectations for staff, so I am strangely excited about that. But I'm also really excited to, like I said, talk about what does the community need from us, where is the best place for us to focus our expertise and our energy in the community. You know, do we tackle early literacy, and do we tackle that with the school district or with other early education organizations? We're doing a lot in the areas of early literacy. We've struggled a bit to connect with the school district at a district level versus an individual school level. We have a lot of good relationships between individual librarians and school principals or school librarians, but how do we work together as a district to help all of those kids and families achieve their goals? And then another thing that I'm really excited about is I've had to really hit the ground running. I had a few weeks before our operating budget cycle started, and so I haven't been able to get out into the community and just meet with various stakeholders and community groups as much as I'd like to, so I'm really looking forward to doing that in the fall. And then finally, I'm really excited to celebrate our 150th anniversary. If you don't know, May 31st, 2025 will be 150 years of Madison Public Library. And we moved from 2 rooms in City Hall to 9 libraries across the entire city. So I'm excited to kind of dig into that history and explore it and get people excited about the next 150 years of Madison Public Library.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. For all of you, you'll hear a lot about that from me over the next, whatever it is, 18 months, let's call it. But I think that is a truly remarkable thing to get to celebrate. I talk to other people who do my role or your role, and not everybody has celebrated that. Not everybody's in the same position that we are. And so I think to be able to come gather around and see the impact of a library system over 150 years is going to be really exciting.
And strangely, when I took my first job here at the Central Library, it was our 125th anniversary. And so my first job was to put a story a day up on the website, the library's kind of new website. So I actually know the history more than the average person would. So Conor, you're 18 months into your role, and I've so appreciated working with you in the past. I've enjoyed your mentorship in the last 2 months in particular in helping me transition. What are you most excited about for the next few years?
Not starting a new job. I mean, the 150th is at the top of my list. I think, you know, the foundation is here and many people are in this room because we love to celebrate libraries. You know, our mission is improve, promote, and support, but just being able to go out into the community, meet with people and say, like, it's amazing to be at the library every day. The 150th is a really great rallying point for us. That history, the celebration, and the look to the future. I think it's just a great kind of inflection point for the foundation and for the library. I'm also excited about the fact that we're building a new library. And when I look back, for those of you who haven't heard already, the Imagination Center in Rydell Park will include the 10th branch library, or neighborhood library. Sorry, the marketing talking points is called the neighborhood library. But that's really exciting to me. I have a really close relationship with my previous boss, and she was here for 12 years and didn't get to build a new library. In fact, there's not a lot of people who worked for the system, except maybe you and a couple of other people, who got to build the last neighborhood library. And so for me, I think it's really exciting. I'm very excited about how to dovetail with the strategic plan, how engaging with a new portion of the city that hasn't had library services before is going to change the library system, and it's also going to change the future of Madison. I think it's just a really exciting time, and we're going to do new things, and we're going to see new ways that people request services. We're going to see new people coming into the community and influencing the way that we respond to them, and that is the most exciting thing to me, because otherwise it feels maybe like it can stagnate, and this will really, bring more people in. So that's what I'm really excited about. And then also, the last thing I'll say is just being able to go out and be an advocate for the library. I think that, well, I'll tell a personal story. Last week, Thursday, my daughter wasn't in town, and my wife was like, oh, I had a book on hold, I forgot to tell you to pick it up. And I was like, well, it's only 8 o'clock, we can go get it. And she was like, the library's not open at 8 o'clock. And I was like, it absolutely is. You should trust me, I'm there every day. And so we got in our car, and we came downtown, and she's like, I feel so civic. I've never checked out a book that I've put on hold. That's always something you do for me. And we spent an hour just in the library, and she even used her own library card instead of mine. She was so excited about the library, and I was like, if you're this excited, and you know all the things that you know about the library, who else can we engage? And so, whether that's adding more people with library cards or bringing library services to different parts of the city with the Dream Bus or with new library, to be able to go out and say, have you been to the library? Have you been to the library? What was your experience? How did you do it? That's so exciting to me. That's my answer. Whatever, my role is to just be the sunshine person, but along with all sorts of new initiatives come challenges, and so I don't want to, act like that's not part of what we're facing. I think also with the city budget being what it is, there are challenges coming up, and so what are you seeing? What are the headwinds? What do the people in this room need to know about so that they can advocate or so that they can understand choices that have to get made? What are we facing?
Well, I think some of the challenges we're seeing as a profession and also as a city, clearly the budget, if you've been following the citywide budget conversation, that is going to be a struggle, not just for the library, but for the entire city. And so, we have seen a slow reduction in what the city is able to do and what the city is able to fund for a variety of reasons. And that affects our libraries as well. So how much can we grow? How much can we innovate? How many service hours can we have? That is going to be an ongoing challenge. I think even past this budget cycle, and it's been a challenge for us for the last 12 plus years. It's a challenge that the library doesn't get to control. So it's really the library and other city agencies working together to try to find efficiencies or try to, show the value of all of the services that the city provides, including libraries. And so that is really a challenge that I see, but it's also a challenge that many of my colleagues see. In the state, many libraries in many cities are struggling with some of the caps that we're seeing at the state level. And it's hard to see our city grow, but not be able to grow to meet those challenges. So projects like the Imagination Center, we absolutely want to build a new library, and we want to be able to look at population growth throughout our city and meet those demands, but we have to do that with a flat or a slightly reduced budget. And so that pushes us to be innovative and think about how do we do things differently, what does service look like, etc.
I think, sorry to interrupt you, but you said something about how we collaborate and show the value of city services. I think one of the things about the Imagination Center that really strikes me is this concept where it's co-located with the Parks Department, and your predecessor talked all the time about how that would change city thinking on where do we put buildings and how do we use them. And to hear you talk about, or other people talk about, other departments saying, oh, well, we could do, Metro could be in the Parks Pavilion telling people about how Metro's going to change with bus rapid transit, or to have public health come and do, inoculation or, testing or whatever. I think it's really an interesting project to say, we're building this building and we're going to be able to use it for attending city council meeting, and also as a library, and to rent to have your family reunion, and to, engage with different elements of the city. I think that's I think it's leadership on the library and Parks Department's part to say, how can we change the delivery of city services in this way? So.
Yeah, with the Imagination Center project in particular, what we know is that libraries do extend a lot of different city services. We help promote, like Conor said, bus and streets and We register people to vote. We serve as voting places. We're in-person absentee voting. We're also polling places. We distributed COVID tests through the pandemic. We work with public health on a wide variety of initiatives. So in terms of the Imagination Center and ongoing service at all of our libraries, I'm really excited about the opportunity to kind of build those partnerships and those coalitions and offer a space where all of that activity can happen. We're also a space for many nonprofits in the community. And so looking at areas that don't have library service that could benefit from not only library service, but connections to nonprofits and connections to other city agencies is definitely one of the biggest reasons, I think, to build the 10th Library at the Imagination Center, but also to look at library service throughout the city. Our service is very concentrated kind of throughout the middle of the city, and for us to grow, we really need to be looking at where are we providing service, where do services overlap, and where is there no service that we need to make sure that there are opportunities for people to connect with libraries, but also with other city agencies.
Yeah, and I think that it bears, you mentioned it, but it does bear saying to open a new branch with a flat budget is going to be hard. It's going to be hard on libraries. It's going to be hard on the people who use libraries. It's going to mean that, you know, hours have to change, or, you know, models have to change. And so I'm very hopeful that we can use the enthusiasm of people like the people in this room to advocate, to say, hey, we need to expand library service. I understand there's a budget shortfall. I understand that it's not a growth model right now, but I do think that we show value every day. You show value, the foundation. Yeah, we don't actually work at the desk at the library. But we work at the library, not for the library. But I do think that that is just something to keep in our heads when we're talking with people, our friends, if your friends are elected officials, if your friends, you know, if they vote, just to talk about the value that you see, and clearly everyone in this room does, or you would not have gotten up today and come to hear us talk. That's important, and I think that, you know, even if it's not responding to, you know, hey, submit these talking points or call because the budget's coming up, talking about the library and the role that it plays in your life really does change. You know, I'll go to dinner tonight and I'll talk about how great the library is, and the 6 friends that I'm with will hear that message and take it with them, and maybe they'll tell that story too. And so I think that there are a lot of things that we can do, and I'm sure that I will ask you to do some of them, but that is a really base level thing, because the library plays such a great role in so many of our lives.
And I would add to that, you know, another thing that every single person in this room can do is share your own library story when you're out talking to your friends or your family or in your church group or wherever it is that you interact during the day. Tell a story about something that you checked out from the library or a program that you attended, ways that the library has changed your life or enriched your life, or someone you know whose life, you know, has been changed or improved through library service. That's something that everybody can do, and that's something that I really, one of the best things about my job is to go out and talk to people about the value of libraries, and nobody says, oh, why a library? Everyone has a library story, and everybody has a positive library story. And in thinking about my colleagues in other city departments, not everybody has a positive streets story, right? So I feel lucky in that way, and that everybody has, you know, even if they're not library users, they value the role of libraries in a community.
Yeah, and if you have those stories, Amy, would you raise your hand? We have a communications person in the room. If you want to tell that story, we'd love to hear it. I mean that though, like I really do.
So, Conor, we've talked a lot about the role that the foundation plays in supporting libraries. Can you tell us a little about what that looks like from your perspective and how our relationship is unique among libraries and foundations?
Yeah, it's actually shocking to me. You know, I came into the role 18 months ago, as you said, and I've worked in this building for 12 years, and I've been a part of a really great relationship between the foundation and the library, and specifically my old role was a bridge between the library and the foundation. And I didn't know that libraries and foundations across the country have a really combative relationships. Like really, it's kind of extraordinary to me. I am part of a professional organization of library foundation directors, and we have a conference. The staff and I all went out to the International Public Library Fundraising Conference, which is, yes, as small focus area as you think it is. And we talked to other people who, face the same challenges, who have the same kind of structure as us, and people would say to me, "Oh God, my director. Oh God, the library." And I'm like, "You only exist because there's a library." And so, as part of the organizational assessment, I'm going to share a little, not humble brag, just a brag. We were noted, the Madison Public Library Foundation was noted for the camaraderie and cooperation that we bring to this relationship, and we were cited as one of the strongest public library foundations in the country. And I will say, Katie Kaufman sent me that note, and I was like, what? Like, I don't think we're not, but I didn't know how remarkable it was. And so that I think penetrates so many levels of what we do. The funding that we give, that's fantastic, but also our ability to, have a conversation about a difficult topic, or you to say, here's what we're going to be facing, and I can just hear you, and then, we'll have some strategic conversations over the course of a couple of months. Those things don't exist a lot of other places. Many of you have met with me, and I brought a document called Opportunities to Give, and that was handed to me, and I was just like, oh, this is what everybody does, best practices. And I took that to the conference, and people were like, you get to sit down with your library management and ask them what they actually want to fund. And I was like, this feels very basic. But it's not true across the country. And so I, in that role with those people, I can bring this and say, this is what the relationship should look like. I was actually asked by another organization in town to come to their strategic planning board retreat to talk about how to remove the adversarial relationship from the foundation and department relationship. I know, it's crazy. But I was happy to do so, and I was also happy that I wasn't like, I'm not going to talk about these things, because we do have that, and we have disagreed, and we have things where the foundation has to say we can't fund that, or whatever, but we do it in a way that has just built a real level of trust, and so I do find that remarkable. I think there's also just a lot of results that you can see, whether you visited the Dream Bus, which is a project that the foundation funded for 6 years so that the library could show the value of it and turn it into an operational expense, or the book festival, which is one of the main programming ways in for people to the library that doesn't have an operational, or isn't able to be operationalized by the library, but we're all committed to it, and so that person works in the foundation office and does programming on behalf of the library, and we're able to have a conversation about how does that serve library needs, how does it serve foundation needs. I think that there are just example after example after example over 30 years of the foundation really being able to address what the library wants and open doors, and also, respond to changes and new challenges, and also to celebrate. So yeah, it feels like a really great place to be.
Well, and I will say that is true. What I also hear when I go to library conferences is not everybody has a strong relationship with their foundation. And I have deeply valued that in the work that I've done in the last 12 plus years in particular, in working in the marketing department and having to kind of jointly share those stories and those experiences. And we, from the library side, we're pushing one aspect of a project, and the foundation is sharing a different aspect of the project, and we're reaching different audiences, but we're able to share the same message and be very strategic in how we do that work. And I think we make each other stronger, and I've deeply appreciated that relationship, and of course, I'm committed to seeing that move forward.
Well, me too, and also thank you to all of you, because you really do make both the library and the foundation what it is. So we really appreciate all of your involvement, whether that's as volunteer. You can clap, that's fine. But yeah, whether you're volunteering or you're supporting privately, or you just love to come to things like this and see other people who love the library, it does actually very much matter to us. we want to leave a little time for Q&A, and we can just open it up to the floor if people have questions. Yeah, okay.
Conor, I can't help but think that your 150th anniversary is a huge opportunity to return to the National Endowment for the Arts.
Great.
Because after they gave $1 million to our project for the libraries, they actually came to Madison. They actually wanted to come to Madison to find out what's going on more about the project, because they said, we've never given to a library before. So after the tremendous success of that endowment match by librarians helping the Community Foundation, I can't imagine that after 12 years now, you can't go back and give another proposal to them and show them the effects of all these endowments and the endowment for the humanities that you have, and say we are now 150 years old and we're ready to go to the next step.
I just want to call attention. Kathleen just volunteered to help me write a grant. So. Yeah, well, he's not there anymore. So Kathleen's talking about NEA grant that we got years ago to start a program, Beyond the Page program for libraries and to build our endowment. And I think that that's absolutely true. I don't talk about the endowment maybe often enough, but one of the reasons that our foundation is so strong is we have a very large endowment. We are very committed to building that endowment because we know that that allows us to move forward and always be able to be here for the library, whether that's through programming, collection, technology, professional development, however the library wants to use it. So yes, there are definitely opportunities. You will see us both publicly and privately going out and leveraging the fact that we're a successful library system 150 years in, and we want to stay here for a long time. It's also built into the way that the foundation works. If you leave a gift to us in our will, and I'll say there are a couple people here with Epilogue Society pins on, thank you, Melinda. We build our endowment all the time, and all that does is make us stronger and ensure that we'll be here to promote the library for longer and longer and longer. So that is absolutely part of our long-range planning. Anyone else? Yep. Yep.
So I was just going to ask, what does it look like for the library and the foundation to partner with community members of color when it comes to, hosting events or programming, and then what some of that support may look like in regards to marketing and just like strategic public outreach?
Well, you did marketing. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I think, our approach right now is that we start partnerships, but we're more waiting for people to come to us. And what I'd like to see us do as a system is go out and do more outreach. And so rather than wait for people to come to us and know what our resources are, is to get out there in the community and share all the things that we can bring forward. From the marketing side, I can speak to some of the partnerships that we've started by working with some of the media outlets in town. So we work with Umoja, we work with La Comunidad, we work with Madison 365 to get the word out about all the library's programs and services. And that includes spending some of our advertising dollars there. We have, in the last couple of years, started to do paid advertising. We have a very small marketing budget, but it's very important to get those stories out in the community and make those connections, and also support those news outlets. So I think there's a lot more work to be done. I'd be happy to talk to you if you have specific ideas, or connect you to our marketing manager here as well. Again, I think that gets back to our focus. One of our focuses is how can we help level the playing field for people in our community, and so that is more of an equity focus, but there are many different things that we could do in that realm. And so what is the thing that the library can do best? One of the things I think we can do best is education. And so how do we let the library know about all the resources that we have for children and families at every stage of their growth and development? How is that different from the school? How do we work together? How can we wrap around and provide support for families who are trying to help their kids learn? So that's an area that I'd like to spend more time on in the next few years. to kind of help all of our families get to having the same opportunities for their children.
Yeah, and I would say the foundation probably has fewer ways in just because we're not as big a system, but we have 4 pillars of how we improve, promote, and support Madison Public Library, and one of those is through diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And so whether that's something like looking around the Madison community for people who can do trainings with our board or who can get involved in our committees to either have a specific topic or to bring a different voice to those things. We're actively engaged in that all times. In fact, I'm going to call him out, and Steve Gilchrist is here from EQT by Design, who is going to be helping us with our strategic planning this fall, using a DEI lens to look at all of our processes and where are we doing fine, where are we doing well, where are we falling short, and how can we change the actual process of the foundation. I would say probably the most obvious way that we partner with any group is through the Wisconsin Book Festival, just because that's our largest kind of community partnership opportunity. And I will say that Tana and I, 12 years ago, decided that, this is a little more background probably than anyone needs, but when the Wisconsin Book Festival came to us, it was pretty much what you would expect of a Midwestern regional book festival in terms of attendance and who spoke. And we made a very conscious decision at that time to change who we talked about as headliners, to change, who we invited to the festival and who we gave the microphone to. It has pushed us into many avenues, both nationally, regionally, and locally, in terms of what organizations we're engaged with, what authors we're inviting, what authors we're inviting back. And I think that what we've seen is just incredible growth in terms of the ways that we push the book festival out of just like, oh, that guy who's on the bestseller list is going to come and talk. We don't have that guy came to. But it really has changed the approach to the festival, but also who comes. It has driven the average age down, anecdotally, because we don't collect race-based demographics because of research the American Library Association has done. You can stand in the room at a festival event and see just a completely different room than you would have seen 15 years ago if you came to the same event. I think the other thing I'll say, and this is actually about the library, is there are certain types of events that the library puts on, most notably, or the thing I'm thinking about right now is this event called Library Takeover, which is an idea that started in the UK and a librarian here had that offered the opportunity for community groups to pitch the cultural event they wanted to see in their library. And that's been going on 8 years now, 7, 8 years?
Oh,
I get it, right.
Yeah.
So it was 7 years ago, but there was a pandemic, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, that allows community groups to say, this is what we want to see in the library. And what we've seen then out of that is sometimes those events then become work the library does. The naturalist in residence, the Native American storyteller in residence, Black women's wellness efforts all came out of seeing the community pitch events they wanted to see in our libraries and the library responding to that. So, I'm not going to try to list all the things the library does, but there are a lot of different ways in, and I think that there will probably only be more as we expand library services to different parts of the city, but also just become more responsive to the community. Does that answer? Yeah.
Conor, of the 150 years of the library, how many of those years has the foundation been in existence? And can you talk about a few milestones from its inception?
Sure, yeah. To talk about the foundation, we've been in existence 31 years. We just had our birthday on the 9th. It is amazing to think about. The first 90-ish years of the library, they didn't even have friends groups. And then the friends group started to get involved about 60 years ago. And then the foundation was created to do more of that kind of long-lasting, how do you steward a gift for a long period of time, or do capital campaigns. So I'd say the first milestone was the foundation being involved with the building of the Elias Ashman branch. And that was the first time, at least in my understanding, and maybe people work here and know better than I do, that the foundation, took a real active role and said, we're going to, really influence the future of libraries in the city. I would also credit my predecessor, Jenny Jeffress. When she started, it was her and a half-time person, and I now oversee 10 people who are working in our libraries every day. And so that was a real milestone. Hiring Jenny was this, we're going to professionalize this and we're going to move it forward. And that coincided with the renovation of this building. Who was in the old Central Library? Was anyone in the old Central Library? In the recent, there we go. So, the idea of a central library that is, I call it all the time, a jewel of the system, it wasn't a foregone conclusion that in the mid-aughts to early teens that we were going to have this building that we have today, that we were going to win the IMLS medal for library service. But those things have all happened, and that has happened because of both public and private support for libraries. But that fundraising campaign was a huge hurdle that we came together and jumped over, and it gave us this building. And I see the library the Library Foundation continuing to do this. Amy can check my math, but I believe that over the 31 years we've raised more than $22 million for libraries, or for the library, and given it directly. And so the impact is largely immeasurable, even if you put a dollar amount on it. And then I think that the work that we're doing on the Imagination Center will be another one of those huge milestones. We're seeing the growth of the system, but also the real depth of the relationship between the library and the foundation in those efforts. Any question?
Yes. As the alder for District 17 on the council, which borders District 12, where the Imagination Center will be housed, of course my district will be high users of the Imagination Center, so I am pro Imagination Center 24/7 of my life. Yeah. Also, before I even get into that, I do want to just say thank you to the foundation, because Jasmine she works for the Progress Center for Black Women, which is my organization I founded, and we received a $5,000 grant, and no thanks to me, but to her work and Martin here at the library, to build out our entrepreneurial library. So thank you for that. So that is a great way that you guys show up in the community. But back to the Imagination Center, which is my life 24/7 right now. If you wouldn't mind, because I would imagine most folks in this room know why we want the Imagination Center. For all the beautiful things that we're sharing about other parts of the city with multiple libraries, those are really beautiful things that are happening. Unfortunately, this part of the city does not benefit from that energy, that goodness. But can you just give a brief update on the foundation's commitment thus far to the project and what's left of that commitment to do?
Yeah, I will. 1 second.
Thank you.
I'm going to say strong libraries, thriving communities again. I think, Alder Madison brings up a great point that all of us know what a library brings to a community. I mean, we don't know what it will do. We know that there will be people who get engaged, there will be people who come to programs, but those ways are going to surprise us. In fact, I was Lau and Bree Christensen are here, who are the honorary co-chairs on the Imagination Center project, and when we first met, Lau asked me, where are the library leaders from this community? You're asking me, I don't necessarily live in that service area, and I said, we don't know yet. 6 years from now, we'll be sitting in a room with people who become library leaders out of that, but because we haven't had one, we don't know, and building that library is going to be the opportunity to engage them. The foundation agreed to raise $4.5 million to support the building of the Imagination Center. We are $2,045,000 on the way to building that, so just under halfway, with a lot more, I have a lot more meetings. But what I keep telling people is that it has not been a straightforward, just, we're gonna do it, and there's the path, and there we go. I keep referencing a family circus map where we went through a tunnel, and then there's a dog, and then the swing set, and then here, and I get my foot stuck in gum. And that could feel like it was, hurdles or problems or, I won't say that it hasn't at certain times, but what I've come to see is that it has really given us these opportunities to just gather enthusiasm. Alder Madison didn't mention that she is also on the library board. And just last week, the library board was really strident in its support for building this branch, neighborhood library, and that hasn't necessarily always been the case from the library board in the 12 years that I've worked here. We saw last summer, we engaged in some, there were some difficult moments around zoning, and it made the city council come out and say, we have to do this. It made the mayor say, I'm behind this, in a way that just hadn't happened before. I go out and meet with donors, I meet with people from foundations, I meet with people from private corporations who want to get involved, and those are not just all people I knew the moment we started this campaign. We're gathering people together. We've seen major gifts from people like the Christensens, but also from Jerry Fauci, who told us in feasibility that he wasn't that interested. We brought the project to him and he said, no, that's a great project. We have to do this for the city, and largely because of your gift. It just really feels like there's, as the more people hear about it, they understand the need for it. And so the city has committed the costs or their portion of the cost for building. We also, I'll call out my grant writer Aaron Woodard, who was absolutely amazing in applying for a grant from the state that would allow us to not have to borrow as much, which I hope makes Tana look great for finding private money. And that's just, there are a lot of ways that the foundation can influence or kind of help in this way. But what I really think is we're out there as just an enthusiasm gathering force and seeing all these people who want to see this happen, because even if you don't live in the service area, you know what your library means to you, and I think it resonates with people to say, I want other people to have this experience that I have at my library.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jamie?
So Conor has stated that the endowments are strong and the foundation has a wonderful relationship with the library. How do you plan to strike a balance with elected officials and city decision makers to show that, yes, there is a foundation that's willing to back up the library, but without city funding, the lights won't stay on, the staffing won't be there, and the programs and hours aren't going to be as robust as they should be for the city. How are you going to emphasize the need for continued and hopefully increased budget support?
Yeah, that's an ongoing question, right? But it's also.
Did everybody hear the question? Yeah.
Yeah.
How are we going to communicate to the city the importance of funding libraries and not just relying on the foundation to do it?
And I would say the wonderful thing about our relationship is it's a pretty clearly defined split. If for people who aren't as familiar with what a foundation does for a public library, that's something that you have to educate people on. And so on the city council, you see turnover, and so you're always educating people about that, or you're educating voters, or you're educating people who support libraries but don't really understand the difference and say, well, if city funding is reduced, the foundation will just pay for that. So it's great to have some boundaries on what the foundation funds and what it doesn't, and to be able to clearly communicate what those are. And I think the mission of the foundation is to, improve and enhance, not to fund operating hours. And so that's really my job to educate people, and Conor's job to educate people on what does it mean to fund a city agency? What does it mean to offer a service to a community? We also have state guidelines on what can be funded. And so educating people about our responsibilities as a public library, which is a little different from many of the other city agencies. We are unique in that we answer to a library board, in addition to the mayor, and we have state statutes and regional guidelines that we have to comply with. And so educating people about those commitments and those expectations is part of our story as well. Libraries can't be strong only on foundation dollars. Foundation dollars help improve and help us grow and innovate when we're looking at what we call a cost to continue budget in the city. The foundation has allowed us to try so many different things, and the foundation has allowed us to build new buildings and to open our services to other parts of the community that haven't had a library service or haven't had as much space to have those library services. But it is the city's responsibility to fund us at a basic level and also to help us grow, right? And so that is something that the city is looking at, not only for the library, but for all city agencies. How can we continue to grow as a city? And how can we advocate for ourselves, not just at the Madison level, but at the regional and the state level?
I often will say that libraries are a promise to the city. And so if the city's gonna promise that, they have to back up their promise. I will sit here, and just talk about how great the role of the foundation is and what the library is able to accomplish, but the fact of the matter is we don't give the city, I said $22 million is 1 year of the city budget. It took me 30 years, me and all the people before me, to raise that much money. So we can't just come in and fund a library for a year. We don't have that capacity, at least at this time. And so to say, oh, well, the foundations just can come in and backfill that is not accurate. I don't even know what that endowment push would be like. Kathleen will talk about it after. But we would need just so many more resources to do that, and then the library system would have expanded beyond. We'd never catch up. So we will be very creative in what we can fund. We'll professional development or technology or collections or programs or all of those things. But at a certain level, the city is responsible, just like they would be responsible for cutting the lawn at a park, or just like they would be responsible for keeping the lights on at the senior center. There are essential functions the city needs to play, and so I'm happy to be a sounding board for Tana, but at a certain point I say, oh, that's above my ability to fundraise for or do things.
Can you just say, if you want to talk to the city, our email addresses are all alders@cityofmadison.com.
Yeah.
To us as council members.
Yeah.
I just want to remind people, because sometimes we get in these conversations and then we don't get the emails.
Right, yeah. So what Alder Madison said is there is an open line of communication to all of your city council members, and emails are
All alders
at cityofmadison.com. I do think that is important. I think that it is also important to, I pay my taxes. I expect things in return. I want a better streets situation. But, I think that is part of our role as citizens, is to say, sure, private fundraising can do certain things, but public fundraising through taxes, should also do certain things. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out this morning. I think there's some more coffee. Thank you to Manny Figueroa from Rusty Dog for supplying the coffee. You can clap, Kate. We will be here to, kind of talk afterward. Please don't make us clean up all this food. Take something home. And thank you for coming out. Thank you for all of your support of the foundation and of the library. Check something out on your way out of the door. The libraries work because people use them. So I look forward to seeing all of you again soon, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.